So first of all, I'm going to start telling you a little bit about me, so you know who are you speaking to in this session. I'm business operations manager at Factor. I have an industrial engineer and an economist background, having around 10 years of experience in building business consulting and also helping startups and other fintech company in their on their early stages. I have a lot of experience developing strategy, anything related to digital transformation, enterprise agility, and other ways of working, designing and implementing operating models, enabling performance improvement initiatives, and among other strategic and operational initiatives across banks, insurance companies, fintechs, and other type of companies in Colombia and Latin America. And I will be telling you today a little bit of how could you improve your resume in order to make it more interesting for potential jobs. So we're gonna start this chat talking about motivation and generalities of resumes and best practices, the importance of using them, explain you some general guidelines to start considering about your resumes. Then we will pass to talk about the main and more important sections that you should be highlighting on your resume. Then we will talk about how to highlight the best of your experience in terms of accomplishment statements. And then finally, we will speak about style and format, general guidelines, final considerations, and any other questions or doubts you would like to make about what we're gonna talk about here in this session. So motivation. In Factor, we consider talent our most valuable asset, and we know that resumes are the main weapon a person has to get everyone to know their strengths and things to highlight about their experiences. Therefore, we're gonna take the opportunity here to give you some tips on how to make the best of them, how to highlight the best of your experience, your acquired skills, etc., based on several best practices and guidelines that we have been identifying on the past months and year in order to make you build the best possible version of your curriculum vitae, and therefore making you capable to highlight the best of your experiences. So first of all, why it is important to have a good resume. First, you need to start considering your resume as your main marketing tool or weapon in order to get yourself and your experience out there for potential recruiters, employers, and everyone in the market. It is important for you to have concise summary of your relevant work experience, education, and other qualifications all in one place, and that would be the resume. And it's important to consider that the resume won't be including exactly the complete history of your life. It is important to be strategic and to identify what you would like to be highlighting, and most of all, to know and to understand that whatever you decide to put in your resume will be your main presentation card, and whatever you decide not to include, the recruiters and the interviewers or potential employers won't be able to know about you. So pick well the information you want to highlight and don't leave anything relevant behind. Third of all, you need to understand that the resume is the main matching tool that recruiters and interviewers use when they are handling the pre-screening stage of the interviewing process. So you need to visualize your resume as a tool to include main keywords, highlights, and everything you need to put in order to be able to be catched by the recruiters and interviewers during the pre-screening stage. And finally, once you are already picked for an interview, the resume helps you direct the interview because it will serve as a kind of script where you have already organized your main relevant projects, everything that you want to highlight. So it will also help you get prepared for the interview. So in general, there exists 2 or 3 type of ways to organize a resume. The first one is in the reverse chronological. That's the one that most of the people prefer to use. You start highlighting your past experiences, and then you go from the most recent one to the more earliest one, and also covering anything related to education and other relevant aspects. Second one is the functional resume. Is like the intention or the main things to consider here is that you will be promoting and headlighting a specific job skills, responsibilities, etc. Making it clear what was the name of the job titles, the employments, the dates, and everything related to your past experiences. And here we're going to talk about a combination of the 2 of them. We will be organizing or we suggest you to organize always your experiences in reverse chronological sense, but also having a functional perspective across the resume. So general guidelines and things to consider. The resume is not a laundry list of all your responsibilities. You need to start considering it more like a list or a highlight of your major accomplishments. So there's no need to overcrowd. Example of accomplishments versus main or general responsibilities, for example, is developed a global outsourcing strategy that increased production by 20% within 3 years. It's a very concise statement where you will help the people reading your resume to understand what did you do, how did you do it, what was the purpose of the task that you performed. One general recommendation is do not use the first person or any I pronouns. Like the resume, it's preferred to be written in third person, like using mainly action verbs in past tense. We strongly recommend you to avoid the repetition of words and phrases. And most of all, like in the end, it is very important for you to be really honest and straightforward. Remember that everything that you will be including on your resume, it's gonna be at hand for interviewers. So if you don't want them to be asking you like weird or uncomfortable questions or technical aspects that you won't be able to handle, so please avoid to include them. So the interview eventually becomes like an easier and safe space for you to talk about your experiences. I don't know, Danny, if we have any questions or comments still this moment.
Yeah, we have 3 questions. The first one is from Nicolas Lopez, and he asks, do you recommend a standard form or the style of the resume could help? For example, a design CV, a website, etc.
Okay, like actually, like right now there are a lot of sites and sites and spaces where you can find more than templates, like AI tools and best guidelines, workshops, and so on, in order for you to write your resume. For me, it's not something related to templates, but to content. I will be talking a little bit more about that in the next section. Is what I do recommend is to understand or to identify the main things that you need to highlight in terms of a good overview, a set of skills to highlight, experiences like written down as accomplishment and not as general functions or responsibilities, and another section related to education, courses, accomplishment, and so on. But I'm not that much a kind of person that use a specific template. Like I try to avoid or I recommend to avoid using like colorful and picture based with templates. Like maybe like for me, it's the simpler the better. It's more about the content and not about the template. I don't know if that answers Nicolas' question.
You can, yeah, he says things. Yeah, and I think that we should like make a scope that we're talking about like data industry, like technology industry, because if you talk about, for example, design, or you are applying like a, I don't know, marketing job, of course is different the way you present, or I think maybe the way recruiters like see and evaluate the CVs, but in this case we are talking about like the technology industry.
Yes, thanks, Danny. You are definitely right. Like for other kind of industries, a more visual template, it's commonly useful. Like here, like for more technical base, like job positionings and people that are applying to these webinars in especially. What we have identified is like it's not about the color of the resume, but about the organization and the content of it, especially for roles related to data, machine learning, data science, analytics, and so on. So
Okay. We have another question from Carlos. He says, thanks for the insights. Do you know if there are any efforts on the recruiter side to simplify the apply part? Usually all the info is related to LinkedIn. Then you need to fill out an internal form and additionally attach a PDF with the resume to later be asked all those information again in the interview. I'm not talking about Factor, but about the general market. So I just like a resume that in the recruiter side, there is like an effort just not to be like the people just keep posting the same information but in different sites.
yes, you're right. Like in the past, what happened is that the usually the recruitment teams were not that integrated to the business side that was that is asking for the particular job position, and they are used to do the things as they use in the past, maybe not that technology based, and they used to have like a general checklist, like, oh, first of all, start with LinkedIn, then ask them to fill a form, then ask them for a PDF, like a more efficient recruiting process, and how new more tech-based companies are trying to go ahead is maybe to centralize the way they get the data, to be sure that they get whatever they need of the experience, like not regarding the template or the PDF, or if it was in LinkedIn, and they are building like some data pipelines and other process in order to get that information included in the matching and the second part of the process. So yes, what you are saying is true. Recruitment has like a past experience with a lot of inefficient steps, but what I see in the industry is that we already identified that, and we're starting like to build efficient process in order to get the information that we need in order, but like reducing the time and the effort that the applicants need to put in the process.
That's great to hear for all the applicants. So we have another question. Will you include something related to your personal part? This is from Sebastian Ramirez.
Okay, like in general, like in applicants, like in general, we recommend not to directly include like any personal information, religion, or other stuff, because for the first stages of the recruitment process is about your knowledge and the things that you have been accomplished. So a general recommendation is to try to avoid the possible bias that a recruiter or interviewer could have like before getting to knowing you yourself. So general recommendation is try to limit it at the first stage in terms of your experience, your background, and your skills. Then later on during the interviewing process, it is always good to be open on non-negotiable aspects of your personal life, for example, or any other hobbies or things that you want to talk about during the interview in order to create a bond with them. But in terms of the resume, it's better not to include that stuff. Also, and we will talk a little bit more about that, is in general, a very long resume is going to be complicated or hard to read for a recruiter. So less is more, like in this first stage of the process in terms of length.
So not for the resume. So focus on the on the experience and the knowledge. From an anonymous attendee, it is true that IT recruiter spend 80% of their time seeking candidates on LinkedIn. If not, how much would that percentage would be? And how important is to have a good LinkedIn profile?
Okay, I'm not sure about, I don't have an exact figure in mind, but in general, yes, I think it is around 80 or even 100%. What is true for IT recruiters is that they they have to read, I don't know, around 100 resumes in order to get the 10 that could be more relevant to the specific job that they are looking for, and then finally they only interview like 5 more from that short list that they build. Why? Because in general the IT departments are requiring a very specific tools or skills and requirements for one person. In order to get that, you need to go swim and try to catch a lot of leads of candidates in order to get to the perfect one for the position that you're looking for.
Okay, but yeah, I think that yeah, as you said, Carlos, like LinkedIn is one of the platforms that the recruiters use the most to catch and to hunt people. So yeah, I think LinkedIn is very important. The last question is we have yeah.
No, like, yes, there was a second part of the question that I forgot to answer, like how important it is to maintain the LinkedIn updated. Like, if you identify that, like we already talked about that, for IT recruiters pass most of the time like doing the sourcing in LinkedIn. LinkedIn has become like their best, I call it, matching tool. So if you want to be matched by a recruiter, you need to be careful or aware that all keywords and relevant aspects that you want to highlight for them to catch you needs to be put in your LinkedIn. Like, a general recommendation that I have is, if you have a whole resume with 100% of your experience, like try to pick at least, I don't know, around 70 or 80% of that experience, and try to put it like strategic, like in LinkedIn, in order to be able to be catched by the recruiters. But leave some other aspects as the like for a possible second round. So yes, it is really important, try to have it updated on a daily basis, but don't put all of your strengths out there. Like, try to keep another maybe 20 or 30% for future stages of the recruitment process.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of more questions. I don't know if maybe these questions should be like at the end, because I know you have more content. So maybe those questions will be answered while you present. Yeah.
Yes. And maybe like, let's talk about like a little bit about the other content that I have here. Okay. Let's see if we already answered some of the questions, and if not, we could tackle them like in the second section.
Yeah.
So this section, I call it like the top third of your resume. It's like, in general, like when a recruiter is reviewing a resume, because they have to review a lot of them, they don't have that much time to read the whole document when they are doing their sourcing process. So we recommend you to identify the first 1/3 or top third of your resume, and be sure to highlight whatever you need to do on this section in order to get their attention. So here we highly recommend to have a first overview paragraph where you try to include or mention the processes and tools that you feel more comfortable working with, all relevant sectors and industry you have been working at lately in your professional career. We strongly recommend to be strategic here, like use your resume as your tool to get your ideal job or the type of tasks and jobs that you want to do. Like, for example, if you want to start using a specific tool, try to, or to continue using it, try to highlight it on your overview, on your first section, and so on. Try to avoid including any skills or tech stacks that you don't feel comfortable to, or you are not planning to continue using on your career path and so on. One general recommendation here is like build a good overview that contains everything that we have been mentioning on the slide. And second of all, try to have a skill section focused on technical aspects. We strongly recommend to categorize tools in terms of maybe 5 or 6 sections or subcategories that could be appealing or understandable to multiple types of stakeholders. Why? Because we have been identifying, like in terms of data and analytics, it's not only the technical recruiters or the technical departments that are looking for these type of roles, but also the other more related business areas or department could be also reading your resumes. So we strongly recommended to divide it in like 5 or 6 sections related to programming languages, databases, or storages, other for data tools, another one for data visualization, one for clouds in terms of the main cloud, because we know that more of the other tools that are in the other section are also cloud-based, but other one for MLs, and finally, a last section in terms of others. This is going to help the other more business stakeholders that will be reviewing your resume to have a better understanding and also a very quick review of the skills and tech stacks that you have at your disposition. Then, like moving up into the experience part, like for me, this is like the main section of the resume. We strongly recommend to think about your job experiences, not in terms of general functions and responsibilities, but in terms of accomplishments and project highlights. We suggest each one to review on each of the employment opportunities that they had in the past and to pick the 2, 3, or maybe 4 most relevant projects and drill down them in terms of answering at least 4 of the questions that we have on here. The first one is, what did you do? In terms of data related and analytics things, it should be, what did you build, design, develop, improve, handle, deployed, and so on, and like try to identify always a verb and exactly the what, and the what should be a model, a dashboard, a tool, a framework, and so on. But then you need to let the people know a little bit more about the how did you do that, like mention all relevant tools, techniques, why. It is really important to mention the purpose of the job. And also it is really important to do so, because whenever you are able to express that you have the understanding of the big picture of the project and you were not only like executing like small tasks, it could also help you highlight or express that you have a lot of seniority or even leadership. And last but not least, also for who or with who did you develop those projects with. It is really important also to try to mention the industry and the type of the company that you were building or developing the project with. Like especially if you're trying to get a job not in the same country where you live, you need to be really strategic on how to let other people from other countries to understand which was the company that you work for. Like, for example, in Colombia, I have a lot of experience in the past working with or for Bancolombia. That's one of the first banks in Colombia. But maybe if I'm applying for a job in the US, the name of the company won't tell them that much. And it's really different to say for Bancolombia that for the first bank in Colombia and Latin America or something like that. Here, like on the left, I have an example of a good bullet experience in terms of accomplishments or project, and not just a general roller specification. It is really different to say like develop models for a bank in Colombia than saying I develop a credit scoring model, default prediction, using Python, SQL, and Sky-Kindred machine learning models for business and corporate clients of Colombia's top one bank. And in the end, this model aimed to increase granting accuracy of credit products to good clients in order to reduce the bank loan loss provision. So when you have something built like this, it shows that you have understanding of the big picture, that you are a senior people, that you maybe interacted not only on the tech side of the equation, but also you have some certain interactions with more business models. It highlights the main tools that you use. So if a recruiter is looking on LinkedIn, oh, someone really is specialized in Python, and you already have the description on here, it's going to help them like identify better the skills you have, and that you are able to put it in practice to develop a value for a business department, for example. Do we have questions till this moment, Danny? Because this is
yeah, we have some questions, and I would just like a side note. This statement seems pretty familiar to me.
yes.
So, yeah, yeah, we have well, here I have a question from an anonymous attendee. At the entry point, what sections are better to focus on? I think maybe the sections you yeah.
Yes, so it's gonna be an overview, like a small paragraph that contains, in general, a description of your main, like the main highlights, processes, and tools that you have been participating on. Being sure that you mention the most relevant industries that you have worked for or that you want to work for, main tools, and at the end, always like try to highlight one of the most relevant projects that you consider to mention. So you have an overview that contains a little bit of everything. A second one related to the skill section, focus on the main technologies. Like here in Factor, we recommend to categorize them in like around these 6 or 7 subcategories related to data. And the third one then would be the experiences that we strongly recommend to start with the most recent one, employment, but trying to highlight the most relevant projects always in each of the employer sections. At the end of the resume, we also try to we strongly recommend to include any relevant aspects related to education, courses, main certifications, theses or academical projects that you have shown, but we recommend them to be at the end. Why? This is a tip someone told me a couple years ago. Like, if I start my resume like highlighting my academical experience, and I happen not to have a master's degrees, but the recruiter is looking for a specific people with a bachelor and a master's degrees, if I start with my education at first, they probably will dismiss my resume because they didn't find the exact educational requirement at the top. So if you put it strategically in the back of the resume, you will, in general, they will try to read the experience section first, than before identifying that you don't have exactly the master's degrees that they are looking for. So it gives you like maybe a second chance of causing a good impression for recruiters. So yes, we do have an educational section, but it's on the end, like below the experience section.
And mainly that was a question that I had here in the Q&A. So what is the best way to include information related to a master or doctorate thesis? But yeah, you already
yes, like as I was saying, like the general structure that we propose is we have an overview, we have a skill section, then the experiences related to specific employers, then education. And when you are in the education section, you should start with the most high degree that you have, like for example a doctorate, then a master's, then a bachelor degree. And inside each section, we recommend to include, if applicable, the most relevant related projects. And when I say related to a specific job position that you're applying to, like also highlighted in terms of accomplishments, but inside of each degree or educational section.
Okay. There is a question from Joan Sebastian Macias, and he asked, what about cover letters? Is it worth it to take the time to write those?
That's
don't
a
know
tricky
what cover
question.
letters are.
Yes, I'm gonna try to answer it, but based on my personal experience, like what I have identified is that in the States, they commonly use a mix between the cover letter and the resume. That doesn't happen a lot in Latin America. What I personally have been trying to do is like I have a general structure of my resume, and whenever that I'm applying to a specific job position, I make a copy of the first resume and I start to changing the structure or the things that I want to highlight in the first section. And I build different types of resume depending on the job that I'm applying to. And that covers in a very good way the use of a specific cover letter. But what they commonly use on the United States is they have a full resume that's the same for any position, but they build specific cover letters depending on the job position that they are applying to. They kind of use the cover letter as a cover letter to introduce the main experiences that you will be highlighting then on the resume. So it depends on the job. Like for me, if they don't ask you to have a cover letter, don't worry about them, because I have seen that in tech, especially like in the more data related jobs and so on, they are demanding less and less the use of a cover letter if you have an appropriate resume built already.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions here. So how many pages should a CV have?
In general, we recommend to have around one or two. It also depends on the font. Like previously, there was a general guideline that say like try to build your resume with a 10-letter font in order to optimize space. Like in more recent years, like people are more flexible on the size of the font. So if you're using a 12, maximum 13 font size, it will be good to have two two pages. But in general, they suggest to have around one and two if you have around 1 or 5 years of experience. But if you have 7, 8, or 10, or even more, it is acceptable or understandable that you could be having around 3 or even 4. Like in my case, because I have 4 years of experience, like my resume right now is around 3 or 4 pages. But the truth is, whenever I'm gonna like generate the PDF to send it to a specific job position, what I did in the past, like previous to of joining Factor, of course, I'm not applying to other job positions right now. But in general, what I do is I review my resume and I try to delete non-relevant sections depending on the job that I'm applying to, always trying to have around 2, maximum 3. But you need to consider, as I say, that I already have 10 years of experience. But in general, try to 2 is a very good number.
Okay, so in what section do you recommend to add the portfolio link?
We recommend to have a final section that we call it projects or other relevant things, and maybe try to highlight the most relevant things and projects that you have been doing, always trying to put a link to the portfolio or to your GitHub or something like that in the end. Let's continue a little bit, because I think that with the
Yeah, there are a lot of questions.
yes, and maybe with the other slides, most of them will be resolved. Like I want to do a small close up here related to the action verb that we suggest to include at the beginning of each bullet of your experience or accomplishment statement. First of all, we recommend to write the bullets or the verb in past tense, and we recommend to be really strategic on the type of verbs that you use, because if you start like using exactly the same verb in all of the resume, it kind of becomes a little bit boring to the people that's writing. But not just because of terms of boring, that is because depending on the type of verb that you are using, your resume could be speaking a lot more about you than you possibly imagine. So here we have a list of categories of action verbs that could help you highlight specific skills. Like if you need to if you want to highlight the technical skills that you have, you will commonly be using verbs like created, built, designed, computed, fabricated, operated, programmed, solved, and so on. But if you need to show more creative related skills, you will be using other verbs like establish, directed, institute, perform, plan, revise, so on. Helping skills are more related to verbs like I coach, with like coach someone, consult, assess, assist, provide, prefer, reinforced. If you are more in a managerial position, you will be using verbs like more related to delegated, directed, led, consolidated, coordinated, and so on. And finally, we have another group of skills like related to communication and teaching skills that is also very useful if you consider yourself as a person that has a lot of communication skills and you or teaching skills that are exactly not related to maybe IT or data things. It is also very important to highlight them because some employers or recruiters are commonly looking for these other soft skills things. So in terms of the structure of the resume, like if you organize it from the most recent experience on top to the earliest one at the bottom, when recruiters review your resume, if they are looking for seniority or professional development, they will look for a switch in terms of the verb. So if you're already a manager, you will be leading things or directing things, and recruiters will be looking for those verbs on top of the resume. But then when you go down, they will find other more related to assisted, participated, designed, created, and so on. So the use of the verb also helps the recruiter to identify other skills that are above that goes beyond the hard skills, and let them know how much leadership skills do you have, seniority, communication, teaching, and other more related skills, different from the hard skills that you have. Here, I'm coming to the section related to style and format. So yes, like here we have the overview, the skills section, the experience, like for each employment. We strongly also recommend to organize the dates like in a very visual and standard way, so the recruiter is able to track your history and past experience. Then finally, an education and training section down here. Let me see if this opens. Okay, for example, this is a general template that I have, or an example that I have here. Like it is a 2-page resume, and in the bottom you see that the education section also includes some bullets whenever do you consider it necessary to highlight the understanding of several problem situations and skills that you use in order to. And in the end, a final section related for projects, portfolio, or other activities related to your learning or professional development that are not exactly related to an educational institution or to an employer. So in terms of styles and format, yes, in general, we prefer to have it like as a PDF, not editable, not in Word. No pictures are commonly used in the United States. Like in Latin America, it depends on the scope of the industry that you are participating in, but in general, we recommend not to include pictures. We suggest to use a conservative or standard font. Sorry, 1 and 2 pages preferred, but 3 is also applicable or acceptable for people with more than 10 years of experiences. And finally, we suggest initially in terms of the resume not to include any personal information such as marital status, age, or religion. You will have the opportunity to talk about that if you want to during the interviews, but try to optimize the space that you have for your skills and your experiences. And in terms of other things to summarize a little bit what we have been speaking here about is at the end, additional sections as needed or required as long as they are relevant. In terms of skills, awards, presentations, publications, certifications, theses, academical projects. We encourage you to try to write them in terms of accomplishment statements and not general responsibility, as I already mentioned. We strongly recommend to have a standard or general document with all your experiences, but whenever you are applying to a job, be sure that you are submitting just the information that's relevant for the job position that you are sending. So we encourage you to personalize a little bit your overview, to pick which bullets to have at the beginning or at the end of a specific job experience, which tools you want to highlight or you don't want to highlight it, depending on the application that you're submitting or working for. Try always to include all relevant information related to the projects that you are highlighting. Like a main takeaway here is like to showing understanding of the big picture of the job performed or the project. It will help you like show a little bit more of seniority and leadership. Is that the position that you want to reach with the application that you are submitting? And also try to have someone outside your field industry to review your resume to get an outside opinion. Like even though in general here we're trying to focus on resumes related to data, machine learning, analytics, and so on, it is always useful to have someone that's not from your industry reviewing the resume, because they are going to help you identify which things are not that clear for possible not data or tech-based stakeholders, and it's gonna help you like put your resume in a more universal language or context in order to get a wider scope. So now we can go again to the questions and answers, Danny.
Someone asked about the if it was mandatory to have a picture on the CV, but you already answered that. That's more a Latin American thing we're used to, but not in the US. So I answered that you were touching that point in that part of the presentation. So Elkin Gutierrez asked, does anybody use AI to screen resumes?
Yes, one of the tendencies that we have right now is like, because there are a lot of resumes that the recruitment teams need to read, they need to get the help that they need in order to be sure that they have that they're going to be capable to process them all. So yes, like more and more the recruitment teams and other related departments are trying to build AI based processes or models in order to enable the recruitment process. Like what I have been identifying is like right now we are in a stage that we are building AI models in order to optimize or automate the more operational tasks. Like, okay, I need to identify how much people knows about Python. So go to a pool of the resumes that I have and pick me up the ones that have these specific words or industries, like in terms of filtering. But we are still in a moment where the recruitment team, like the added value that the recruiter has in the process is still really valuable for the process. So we are trying to reduce the more operational tasks related to matching and general screening, but in the end, the recruiters are still reading the resumes. So it's a mix. So we are trying to use AA in order to improve the efficiency of the process, but we're not still, or particularly like me personally, I consider that the human in the loop is still necessary in order to match certain specific job positions and requirements.
Agree. So it is possible for you to share with us this amazing template?
Yes, we could talk about with and see which resources we could be make available, at least for the people that were participating on this section. Danny, we could think about that.
Yes. We will be this talk is being recorded, so we're running out of time because we have to jump to another another meeting about data science roles. So I have a lot of questions that haven't been answered, but once we upload the recordings to YouTube, you can find the answers to those questions there. So please don't worry. we will give you an answer, but we have to jump to another meeting. Thanks you all for attending. Thank you, Carlos. And I think this is a very important topic for us that we apply to tech roles, to tech jobs, and this is a pretty important topic. So you can also send your question using Wooba. Yeah. Thank you, Gina. So thank you, everyone. See you in the next talk. And thank you, Carlos.
Okay.
See
Bye.
you.